Hello, welcome to Math for All, where we try to make math creative, curious, and inclusive for everyone. I'm Molly Vokey.
I'm Heidi Subnani. Thank you so much for joining us this evening or whenever you are watching. You can always follow along on our YouTube channel. You can find us on Blue Sky or our Math for All Facebook page. You can also find us on our website, mathforall.us, and you can find out what we're doing and where we will be and what upcoming shows are. And so we would love to have you follow along.
Yes. And as always, you can find our book, Math Activators, at Didex if you are interested in fractions, decimals, and integers. And we're not going to be talking about those things today. We are going to be talking about data. And we're super excited about this today because this is one of our own personal friends. I feel like this season we've talked to more people that we know in person than any other season. Do you agree?
I would say yes.
Yeah. So that's super exciting. We're talking to Chrissy Hopkinson today. And Chrissy's a passionate and dedicated educator, instructional coach, professional development provider, core curriculum writer, and product developer. She is focused on equity and engagement in classrooms, especially in mathematics. Chrissy is an analytic and visionary thinker with an ardent interest in educational research, who always puts what is best for students first. So let's bring her in.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, thank you for having me.
We're so excited that you're here. Let's get to it.
We love to start with what is your math story? That way, if people don't know you in real life like we do, they can learn a little bit more about you. So what's your math story?
Thank you for asking, because that is exactly why I'm sitting in this chair, which my parents think is a total crack up, that I get to do this and I get to hang out with super smart math friends like you. I liked math, even in high school, even algebra. I'd say fractions were a challenge for me, and I definitely, and multiplication facts, probably almost didn't pass third grade because of that, and leaned on the algorithms. And it wasn't until later, when I got to be a math coach, early in my math career, I was asked to be an author because I was teaching decimals through checkbooks at my school, and the principal ended up being a product creator, and that turned into
very unusual.
I know. I was like 23. I remember telling her, I don't, like after a week where she was like, okay, go start writing, be an author. And I went to her office, we didn't have Zoom back then, and I started to cry, and I was like, I don't know how to write a book. She was like, listen here. Yes, you do. You're doing it, and you're doing what you do in class every day. Just put it on paper so someone else can understand it. And how true is that, right? How many amazing, incredible ideas do we have of practitioners in the classroom? So always love to elevate and support teachers. But anyway, that became sort of a path for me after that. And I became passionate at understanding the math that I was teaching, particularly when I was teaching at most of my schools were Title I schools or turnaround schools. Almost always, more than 80% of the students were second language learners. I really wanted my students to see themselves as someone who could do math in high school, who could go to college if that's what they chose, or a trade that involved mathematics. I wanted them to have choices. And they also but many students didn't understand math by the time they came to 4th and 5th grade. I would get what I would call, particularly when they do those type 4 problems, right, where it's integrated and it's several steps, I'd get what you call the desk slide, right? They'd start to be like they would give up, right? They would lose perseverance because they couldn't access the task. But I couldn't teach it well unless I understood it, and I didn't. And so I became a mathematician through the curriculums that I was teaching. In the early days, it was everyday math out of the University of Chicago. Common numerators blew my little mind. I didn't even know that was a thing. I was like,
right?
Yeah. And Li Ping Ma's book, Becoming Puffum, right? A profound understanding of foundational mathematics and understanding fractions. I remember calling my dad and being like, I get fractions, like go figure. And she had real world examples in that book. So that just led me to becoming passionate to helping students, but then teachers understand mathematics and really understanding physical models and virtual models. I fell in love with Engage New York. Our district fell in love with Engage New York. I had the opportunity to then do professional development for Eureka, and I just learned so much more about the why behind those models and why we use the same coherent models across grade levels, so that they're just switching the idea of the unit, or more complex unit, not having to completely reconstruct their understanding of the, part whole mathematics or linear, whatever it is. So that was groundbreaking for me. And then I was lucky enough to get to be a part of that writing team. And two amazing parts of that was getting to be on the team that really studied how the math practices can come to life organically, but also be recognized by the students and teachers in the math work that we do. So sort of elevating it to the surface. And the other one was instructional routines, so that we have a community of learners that see themselves as mathematicians who get to engage with one another and share their ideas, use language in any variety of ways, but also to use their representations. And that opened my eyes to more engagement strategies than I had already been using. And so that continues to be a passion for me, is how do we engage students in the mathematics?
Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's a fun story with a really unique beginning.
Yeah.
And we've heard a lot of math stories, but like becoming an author at 23 because you had a cool idea that you were doing in the classroom and your principal just happened to be like, what?
Yep. It makes me think about self-fulfilling prophecies, right? Because before that, because of my geometry experience of sort of almost failing, right, and being dumb at math and not getting it and having to have a tutor just to pass the SATs, mostly because of geometry. There were some other things too, don't get me wrong. But then somebody sees something in you, changes your label, right? Like overnight. And I wouldn't even have been seen as a math coach or like capable of that. But I saw myself differently. Someone else saw myself differently. I was willing to take the risk and the challenge and get really smart people along the way to teach me. Mm-hmm. I think that really makes a difference for everybody, right? When I say you are a mathematician, I love that it's the math, there's math, right?
Yeah.
How often everybody's a reader, everybody's an artist, everyone's a singer, but still to this day at the gym yesterday, I had this nice conversation with someone that does very technical mathematics to make the large, I don't know what you call them. It's going to be embarrassing. The wings that go on the windmills to create wind.
Yeah, I don't know what those are called either, but
they're blades, I guess. They're huge.
Okay.
And we got talking about math, and I told her what I do, and she was just so astounded. And I just felt like everyone uses math. And I think that's where the data literacy, when it first started coming out with the California standards or data science, was so compelling to me, because we use data to inform decisions. In some ways, the media uses it as a way to persuade us to buy or act a certain way or feel a certain way. And in some ways, it could even be used as a weapon of ideas or of numbers. And I think we'll talk about how they can use all the content standards that we have to do, and they can engage in the math practices, but we can also teach them to be critical thinkers and data literate, and to kind of question, why was it presented this way? What does this data mean? What might I want to do about it? That's really math in action. Students using math to better their own lives, no matter what they end up doing after your class.
Mm-hmm. I think that's like such a critical thing, and very much tied into like, when will I use this piece of it? It's that there are other parts of math, pieces of geometry, pieces of algebra 2, where like I've not used that exact skill that I taught, right? Like those skills were in service of teaching me problem solving and teaching me ways to persevere and teaching me ways to look at patterns and all of those things. But when it comes to like data and financial literacy as well, I think that's like another big thing for me personally. It's that idea of those are things that all of us will continue in our lifespan to have interactions with, whether we want to or not, right? Like it's that idea of like you will always have interactions with data in some format or financial literacy in some format, and not understanding how people use those tools it puts everyone so far behind. And we see this all of the time. You know, I think during COVID, that was one of the first times that I really realized like, oh, wow. Like,
yeah, I need to know what data is.
You know, I need to know what that's, and like how many of us don't have an understanding. Have an understanding of what the data is and how it can be presented to showcase different points of view or different biases, and like are we looking for and are we aware of those things?
Yeah. And I think when, teaching 4th and 5th grade, I loved teaching data, mean, median, mode. We had the songs, we did, people graphs, all the engaging things, made them with sticky notes and collected data and surveys on ourselves. But we were so limited by the types of representations that we were using. And I was not, a colleague of mine, even when we were writing 1st grade, we integrated data into the first chapter.
Yeah.
And even the mathematician on our team was like, what are you doing? Like, it goes at the end of the year. Like, that's not right. Those standards don't belong there.
Yeah.
But because data can tell a story, and the typical graphs that we were graphing, or sorting, and not that those are not relevant in mathematical tests, they are, but they were not telling a story about the children, and they were not using visualizations that were compelling to look at or elevated the story that was told through the mathematics. And I think that's what's so interesting to me, and the Data Project and the New York Times and some of these really unique visualizations draw you in by the artistic element and by the human story behind it. And so I think it's one of the most engaging instructional routines out there. And a lot of teachers, I think, myself included, I didn't really necessarily completely understand a box and whisker plot or a scatter plot. And I think many of these visualizations are accessible to young students if they are shown correctly. And if we guide them through a routine that feels very comfortable and reduces the cognitive load, I think they're a very engaging way to engage in your grade level standards.
It's interesting the way that you're talking about it, because I taught box and whisker and did not enjoy teaching that, because I was teaching middle school at the time, and it was very procedural. There weren't a lot of good stories that we could, the data stuff that is out now is so much more compelling than teaching a raw routine for a particular type of graph. Starting with the story, as you're talking about, is so much more appealing and engaging and purposeful.
Yeah, I agree. Huge fan of number talks. I've been doing them 25 years, and huge fan of True False. Megan Franke and Thomas Carpenter's book on algebra, like that was groundbreaking for me, about equations, especially since 1st grade having the only elementary equality standard. But how much richer are any of those routines, or which one doesn't belong, or any of those awesome routines that we all use, how much richer, instead of 1 or 2 or 4 expressions, I have an unlimited number of expressions that can be used from a data visualization. It could go on for a week or 2, or you can continue to leverage that data set.
So I know that not many programs that are out there have like specific data talks. So can you talk us through a little bit about what that means, and what that routine looks like, so that people who are not familiar can get an idea of that.
Absolutely. So a friend of mine, when we were coaches, I know you guys do a lot of instructional coaching. Maybe you use this, we all do. But when we were looking at data to sort of lower that affective filter, right? When you're looking at data with teachers, it's very anxiety provoking. And so we always want you have a routine so that it feels like the focus is on the data. You know what the conversation is going to be about. It's not about you. It's really about what story is the data telling and what actions can we make. And the simpler a routine is, the better. I remember having, a 2-page checklist in our district on number talks, right? That you would have to A, use, and B, as coaches, we would check people off, and then, you'd go through the routine. In my mind, that is not easily replicatable either for the teacher, and it doesn't feel safe for the student either, when it doesn't feel like there's room for it to morph or, to follow a student's lead. Only time I've gotten in trouble maybe 3 times in my professional career. Story for another time. Mm-hmm. But one of those times was because a student of mine who spent some time in another classroom as well because had significant needs, had a moment 3/4 in the year where he decided to speak up during a number talk. And we were all so proud of him. And I was, really engaging him and letting him do that. And the other students ended up clapping, but we didn't follow the procedure. So that is not my intent. My intent is that it's a very simple structure where you understand the flow of the conversation, but leaves room for lots of change. Adoption, I guess is the word. And so the coach protocol that you might know is here's what, so what, now what. And that's what I've been using from preschool to 5th grade. And it's been very, pretty successful.
I think keeping it simple and accessible, and it's not just used in data. So it's a protocol that you can use in so many different areas. And so we're using and leveraging what is already familiar to further that routine, I think, in many ways.
That's actually a great point, for a story, a theme that has a meaning or a historical event could also benefit from this. That's great. A map. Molly, would you like to show it, and I'll talk you through it a little bit, and then I thought maybe the 3 of us could try it on a visualization that I like.
Yeah, that would be great.
All right. So here's what is the good old notice wonder. You just can't go wrong, where you just have that really low floor, high ceiling, where you can just let students be excited about the pictures or, have a question about the word or try to understand the labels. We'll talk a little bit about the difference between using slow reveal or using a finished visualization. So this is flexible enough to be used either way. But this is really just where they get to ooh and ah and start to build that mathematical curiosity. What do I want to know? What is this trying to tell me? Moment of the visualization. The so what is the meat of the sandwich, right? That's where the mathematics is. That's where we're going to try to get a lot of those grade level and beyond. That's what's great about this. We'll go beyond their grade level standard because you've left it open to their own questions. So you'll answer your wonders if you can, and the teacher can facilitate some questions. But really, we're just saying, what is this data showing me? What questions can I answer, and what are those answers? But this is also, the common standards that you have. You could find difference. You can find totals. You can make predictions about what comes next in the pattern. So there's lots of mathematical avenues that you can drive them down, or it can be really student directed.
Love that.
And the last part, like all routines, I don't know about you, but I have a hard time finishing routines in 10 or 15 minutes. So you could break this up.
We know nothing about that.
Yeah.
Pacing guide marching on, right?
Yeah.
Great math, and you've got other things to do. So now what I think is really important, that's where we're engaging the students to employ their own opinions, their own actions, and also to think reflectively about the representation. I'll show you here in a little bit a representation I showed some 2nd graders, and they were straight out annoyed by it. Like, they did not like it. They ended up redoing it their own way. And what an incredible, moment that was. And I think there's even data scientists out now running businesses going out and showing people, show the data this way, and this is the result you get, or this is the impression you get. Show the data this way, and you get a different result. So I think starting them thinking about, is a bar graph better or a line graph? Or now there's so many creative ways to do it. Could we come up with our own way?
Yeah, I love that. And this is like totally doable. And teachers use a lot of this like to start, right? Like, so we use Notice and Wonder to start. We use like that. So what now in other areas. And so it really is accessible, I think, to everybody.
And keeps you a little bit focused too.
Yeah.
That's a benefit of a routine too, because you can get so far off. It keeps you moving through the flow, getting to the objective, getting to the mathematics. So I think it's important too.
Awesome.
All right. You want to try it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm hoping you can see the visuals well enough. If not, let me know.
Ooh.
So I'm just going to be quiet and I'll let you notice and wonder.
Oh, I wish I could see the scale.
The scales are
10.
20 to 100% on both X and Y.
Okay.
Okay.
Percentage of all Americans saying a food is healthy, and percentage of nutritionists saying. Yeah.
You can kind of picture these two talking heads, like me and my nutritionist having a conversation.
Well, and it's interesting to me, like the things that are kind of in like the middle section.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that idea of 60-ish% in both. So milk, I don't know if that's cheese, chicken, wine. I'm not sure. Orange juice. I mean, orange juice is like, kind of, but like that section feels like more agreed upon, I guess. But I would say like people could definitely make a case either way, like what in that.
Molly, do you agree or disagree that the section in the middle is what they agree on?
I think that I'm not sure if it's agreed necessarily as more like a spectrum. This to me feels more like the whole thing's a spectrum, even though there's kind of like a cut in between it.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
Well,
my
I mean,
eyes
like,
are not that good.
So it looks like about 90% of Americans think that eggs are healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And similar, like almost 100% of nutritionists, if I'm reading that correctly. I may not be. And then like, I don't know.
So
if
that means like
next to it.
Did you want to ask a question, Molly?
Yeah, I do, because I can't read it.
Oh yeah, tell me. Sorry.
So that's okay. So the bottom scale is the nutritionist scale.
Americans is X. Nutritionists are Y.
Oh, okay.
So let's take granola, since we
Mhm.
started at the beginning, and we have the eggs. So we
Right.
heard, I'm just going to repeat, Heidi said that about 90% of both Americans and nutritionists say eggs are healthy. So they agree.
Got it.
We're getting to the so what, but
Yeah.
we can notice that eggs are about 90-90. So what noticing could we make that's right on the graph about granola?
So granola.
My gosh, you
Is
guys
that-
have really good eyes.
I'll tell you,
Is
it's
it
80,
80 or is it
80 Americans.
So 80% of Americans say it's healthy, but only like 45%
Mm-hmm.
of nutritionists would say it's healthy.
Yeah. And in this stage, we would just say that, right? We would just
Yeah.
stop there.
Mm-hmm.
And they might notice things like for the sake of time. They might notice clusters. So you noticed a cluster in the middle.
Mhm.
We might say, what do you notice? You know, do you see any other clusters?
I mean, I feel like
outliers?
there's a certain amount of agreement on what everyone is saying is not healthy.
Right. Right.
We're very
Ice
healthy.
cream and
I mean,
Big Macs
but,
or whatever,
you know,
right? All that stuffed cookies.
disagree. That's like a, you know, dairy and a protein.
It's not a lot. And I feel like, where are the vegetables? Oh, there's a few up there.
Yeah,
Kale.
like
Hey, let's
kale.
put the good vegetables, I think.
I mean, like
Maybe a
corn. Corn is that
Is corn
70%
on there?
growth?
I don't
Where is
see.
corn?
I don't see
Like
corn.
above milk and to the right a little bit. Is that corn?
Oh, I
Baked
see. What
potato.
you're
Oh, yeah, it is. I put it on the cob. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, so some
Look
people
at
are
wine.
saying that corn and peanut butter are similarly healthy.
Yep.
Interesting.
Where-
And so then we might start talking about, we move kids into so what? You know,
Mhm.
so what? What is this data telling us? Why is this important? What mathematical comparisons could we make? Or what mathematical groups could we make? What causation could we make?
Well, I mean, Americans think a lot more things are healthy.
And it might make you wonder what data, right,
Right.
what has been shown to them that has
Right.
made them think that, compared to the data that the nutritionists have seen as part of their education.
Right. And I'm wondering, like, frozen yogurt versus is yogurt on there? I can't see it. I'm like, I just wonder, like, is it because we've said it's yogurt that more Americans feel it's healthy, for like coconut oil as well? Like, I would say that's an American thing, because in Southeast Asia, we use coconut oil a lot. So,
Right, but
And that'd be a
because
great now what
it's
question.
like oil,
right.
right? But
But like
also
olive
because-
oil is up top.
right, because everyone knows that olive oil is really good for you. Right, but I mean, there's so much.
Yeah.
There's so much out there right now. It depends on like what are the trends that are, like, if you're looking at protein and you want to start making your own protein bars, you're going to be using a lot of peanut butter, a lot of oats, and a lot of coconut oil.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on like what are the things that you're listening to as an American.
Mm-hmm.
Not a nutritionist necessarily, but
And that discussion might lead you into some now what? And what might me decide? Maybe we would talk to our cafeteria, or what might you talk to your parents about, or what might you choose to eat tomorrow, you know, come on this. Is there anything here you might disagree on? Could we compare it to what people think in different countries? What about the foods that we love that aren't on here? And then there's lots of investigations you could do. You could talk about, you know, even if you were just, I think this would be accessible to fifth graders who are doing percentages, you know, or even if you change the numbers a little bit for fourth grade, what's the difference in percentage for percentage of Americans versus nutritionists, what they think about a Kind bar? What's the difference between Kind bar and granola bars, right? What are the top 3 foods they agree on? How do you know? I mean, that would be a nice math conversation.
I know that you're going to talk about slow reveal, but I would love to see how this would look as a slow reveal.
I didn't bring a full slow reveal, but I did bring the end of one. And what I tend to do, I just wanted to, before I show you slow reveal, and thank you for asking me that, I just wanted to show you the difference between this visualization and then a scatter plot, which is in the upper grades. And honestly, the scatter plot was a lot harder for me to want to look at.
Right.
The topic alone isn't necessary. It could be compelling, right, if you want to get your kids to study. But even then, like, what does one yellow dot mean?
Right.
You know, it doesn't tell the story about a student or what really happened. So I just think it's interesting, even if you had student faces there or something about that visualization could help you really engage in that content a little bit, or even do this one first. And now they're like, okay, they've wrapped their head around how it works before you go to a more abstract or typical visualization.
Right, because actually that one looks more simple, but the one with the food looks much more like a story, like you can approach it more, even though the other the scatter plot looks a lot simpler.
Yeah. It's true. And
Yeah.
you still can do here's what, so what, now what. And there's still
Yep.
an action to be said, and they could redo the data, and hopefully they'd walk around saying, well, if I study more, I'm going to get a better test. You know,
Yep.
you could still do the protocol on this, but I do think visualizations matter. And I do think you could ask the students in both cases, could we show it another way? And when they get proficient at enough types of representations, what would this look like as a bar graph? Let's try it and let's compare. Did that help us or not?
Love
Yeah.
it.
So thank you for bringing up slow reveal. I actually knew about and was using slow reveal before I had seen the data talks on UCubed, which was my second sort of resource that I'll show you a couple of pictures from. And I'm sure many of you know, go to slow reveal graphs. The two that she did last week are phenomenal. They're always very timely to things happening. And I think almost all of them could be, used or adapted. And she has a really nice sense of different grade levels. So big plug out to Jenna. They're amazing. So what would happen in the beginning is you would only see the bars. You would not see any of the labels, which are so nice and pictorial for the younger crowd here on the X. No label on Y, no title, no scale. And I think you would just start here with here's what. And the here's what would go all the way to this point where you have the full graph with all the components. And then you could say, so what? And you could start digging into the mathematics and still finish up with the now what. She puts questions in her notes and I still use them. I just have a whole set of questions for myself based on grade level in the so what, that if students aren't coming up with it, then I can prompt it.
Yeah.
So that I'm getting to do that kind of mathematical thinking.
This is a nice one because it is pretty simple to look at, but without any labels on it,
Right.
There's a lot to wonder about, right? Like, why are there so many that are almost exactly the same?
And like the odd number in a couple of cases. I find like
why does it go so steep?
The praying mantis has 5. Like,
well, don't you wish you had one in the back of your
I'm just
head?
saying, like,
Yeah.
where's the odd one?
Where's the symmetry? Come on now.
It's in the back of your head, of course. You're a teacher.
Okay,
You have
the
one of
sun
those.
star, like, okay, like I get if there's that many like tentacles, there's one on each one, but come on now.
Yeah. I think the thing that is really great about slow reveal is it builds mystery, right? It's just it is a level of engagement that gets students to notice and wonder, and also gives them a sense of it's okay to, guesses isn't the right word, but it's okay to make an educated guess. And that's okay in mathematics, and to readjust that based on new information, and that we all do that. I think it gives you a lot of room for that. It makes it very fun, very engaging, very, low filter, high reasoning, high critical thinking, because you're going to ask them to justify. But they can also say, I see 10 colors or whatever it is, 8 colors, and that's okay too.
Yeah, I love that you just pointed that out, because the idea that kids can change their mind when they get new information is something that's been lost from math for a very long time. And I think lots of routines like this are starting to bring that to the forefront, which is absolutely what life is all about. As you grow older and you get more information, you should be changing.
And isn't that what we want data to do, is inform us as citizens? Yeah.
Yeah, it starts here. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
I mentioned UCubed, and I do want to just put them out because, it's amazing. They've got a PDF about how to do data talks. They have data talks for every grade level, because one of the tricky things is finding, okay, I want to do these data discussions, and but where do I find the data, or how do I create it? So we can talk a little bit about creating your own visualizations and giving students room to do that. But like we said, we have a curriculum, and this is a great way to infuse content. So for example, actually, I'm going to go back. I don't know if I can go backwards. I can. For example, I showed this we did this in a second grade class, and they had lots of mathematical statements, like, what's the difference number of eyes? Is there another pair that has the same difference? And they ended up writing equations with two expressions on either side. What an amazing opportunity to practice our facts, right?
Yeah.
To share our strategies of how we know 13 plus 5 is, the other part of it, what are true or false to the other expression. There was so many opportunities for addition, subtraction, ordering, like kindergarten to 2, there were so many opportunities here for them to use their content mathematics, in addition to the fact that they could find a total of all the eyes, or that they're also getting their graphing standards in here.
Yep.
So always keeping the math objective in mind. Sometimes I myself can be I had a principal that used to say I was like Hammy. Oh my gosh, what's that movie where they have the fence and it's a hedge? Oh, is it the hedge? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do
and
know.
It's the animals. Well, at one point he gets hyped up on Girl Scout cookies, and he's like running around like a maniac looking for all the cookies. When you're an instructional coach and you have all these great ideas, you stay focused. It's the same with anything in our classroom. We have to stay focused on the mathematics. We don't necessarily always have time to go outside that. So this does fit the mathematics of the grade level, and that's really helps us get focused. However, you can also look at data about the mathematics.
Yeah.
So we know that in K2, they're building all those sums to 5 and then 10 and then 20. What a great opportunity, because every time you roll that dice, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You're finding a sum, right?
Yeah.
Now you're collecting data, and now you're looking at patterns and engaging in mathematical practices of making predictions and being precise and all those kinds of things. You could represent this in lots of ways. So here I'm kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. I'm working on my sums. I'm also looking at data. I'm also having fun. I'm also using my math practices. And I think that can be a really powerful way for students to get engaged. They could even do this as a center. Once you've done the discussion, okay, now go. Let's see what happens. Guess what? My graph looks a little different.
Yeah.
What about yours? What if I do this for a week? What will happen then? Does data always look like this? Will it ever, will a dice ever live somewhere, else? So it's interesting.
Love it.
And does it change if you use different dice? So if I were to use the 10-sided dice, how would that look different versus having one that just has the 1 to 6 little pips on it? And how might that change things?
I was heartbroken when the probability standards kind of fell out in Common Core, like the permutations and the combinations and probably. I loved teaching that in 4th grade. I thought it was so fun and so interesting, great opportunity for fractions. But it would be fun to say, okay, if you're going to win a prize, if you roll the dice, what are you going to bet on and why?
Yep.
Why is it true that it's not very likely to get a 2, but it is very likely to get a 7? What are all the partners to 7?
Yeah, no, I love that. It's a great visual too.
It's a lot of opportunity. So we don't need to keep sharing. We can keep talking a little bit.
Okay. Those were really, really fun. I have not been on the YouCube to see the new data stuff that's on there. So thanks for sharing that one. I think the ones that feel more approachable and appealing are the ones that have pictures on them. And I don't think that's just for young kids. I think that grown adults want to look at a picture over statistical stuff any day, because it gives them an idea of what it's about before, slow revealed graphs can be anything, but she probably doesn't do a lot with pictures that are from the beginning because it gives away what the content is. But
Right.
It helps you to acclimate to what you're actually looking at.
Yeah. And we're zoning in on one part of the larger data cycle. Jill Buller, I do want to call out her book, Data Minds. And they also have the big ideas of data for each grade level on that website. So you can go see it. But there is a data protocol, not a data protocol, but there's a whole process around data. And right now we're sort of talking about analyzing the data. And that's just looking at the visualization and unpacking it and maybe making those next steps. But there are steps, obviously, that come before that you can engage your students in to ask their own questions about the world. And that's why we put it in chapter 1 of grade 1, because they could ask questions about themselves in their class and get to know one another and represent it mathematically. So now I'm bringing in culturally, responsive instruction and math identity and all those kinds of things. They're super interested in themselves. It's also a really important step for young students in particular, maybe older students too, to the point of, what did that yellow circle mean on the scatter plot? Well, when they understand, when I'm standing making a graph, I am a piece of data. But now when I use a sticky note or a cube, or I color in a spot, or I put a dot on a line, what does that represent? Well, that represents my vote, or that represents my size, or that represents how many people in my family. That sort of opens up the idea to, if I'm asking questions and I get a bunch of information from that, I can show it any way I want. Right. And they don't have to be in a box of a bar graph. Grade 1 doesn't even have that standard. They can show it any way they want. And I would argue to expand your data instruction to allow them to do different visualizations. I'm going to show you, actually, I changed my mind. I'm going to go back to some pictures because pictures speak, 1,000 words.
Yeah. You just made me think about when I was in teaching middle school, we used to have them collect data when they were doing in science, they were doing their genetic stuff. They would, collect data on, okay, who has a widow's peak, who's double jointed, who's all of those, who has blue eyes, all of the things that they were already talking about in science. And they loved that. I mean, that week, everyone was walking around the school looking at people's eyes and asking all of the questions. So,
yeah, that's really cool. I read somewhere that AI is generating more data on a daily basis than we were generating in 10, 20 years prior. I mean, it's just, there's no way for us not to engage students in data. This is the bubble chart on the left is U-cubed, and I love it. And it's when I started thinking, this is the first one I saw. I was like, well, that's not data. That's not a graph. Like, that's not my standard. I'm not afraid to be like, I have some math I need to learn here. What does this really mean? And this is the one that I showed to the second graders, and they were massively annoyed. Can you guess why they did not like this visualization?
I'm wondering if it's because the size of the fruit in relationship to the, like,
other fruit,
multiple blueberries, not just one giant blueberry. That's but
also look at the blueberry compared to the apple.
Right.
And the banana is going to be smaller than all of that? No.
And yeah, the proportionality is challenging. Yeah. What else?
Not every fruit is on here.
They didn't like that it was scattered also all over the place. So, and they ignored the key at the bottom for a long time. I probably should have hidden it in retrospect. You could have done this as a slow reveal or just let one fruit pop at a time. They didn't look at the key until later, I'd say 5 kids in. But then when they found it, then they were like, well, like kind of like, what dummy put the circles all randomly organized at the top? Like, who would do that? Why would you do that? Like, why wouldn't you put them in a line? Or can we cut this out and reorganize it? They got so engaged in the now what. That's right. So they went right from here's what to now what, because there's no numbers. So they didn't have, it was sort of like a numberless word problem. Love those, love those. it reminded me of that, where they could think about the relationships and the patterns. So they were engaging in math practice 7 and 8, but they were really annoyed that they could not argue and justify, math practice 3 because they didn't have the numbers. And there was not a lot of precision in math practice 6. And so they decided to collect their own data, which they did. And then I gave them buckets of manipulatives. And so the one at the top is linking cubes. And basically they made an area graph representing their survey. And they thought it was easier to see because of that representation, right? I can't tell blueberry is 1 or 100 or 1,000 or a percentage. But here I can see blueberry is 2 because I can count.
Yeah.
And I can see the relative size. And I loved that they didn't feel like it had to be stacked up in linear because of the type of cube. So if I had given them snapping cubes, what would they have done? Would have been linear, right? It's just like a counting collection. Like if you give them a certain material, it's going to lend itself. I didn't know they were going to make an area graph, but they did. That's certainly not in our standards. And then the kiddos below, those are people counters. Stinking love those because they really get that idea of that's me or that's you. And then they ended up explaining a key and I wrote it to them. And they also organized it they kind of like an area graph, but they started thinking about it in terms of arrays because, they were starting to think about arrays. Yeah. And how much did it annoy them that one of them was odd, right? And is it an array if it's odd? So like the mathematics just started exploding. And it was so fun that they all could visualize it differently.
No, I love that. Well, and then they're taking ownership of how how they want to represent it and are justifying that, which I think is part of the work that we do as we, ask as kids get older, we're asking them to how could you, if you wanted to make it look one way or another, to insert some bias, how could you do that? And what would that look like?
Yep. I think too, we talk about context and how important context is, and it comes through in word problems, right? Although, having tried to write word problems that actually feel like real world, I can tell you it's not as easy as you want it to be.
Yeah,
and we were
tell you that
from older kids too. And I had to use the phonics of first grade because we were passionate about them being readable and accessible. So very limiting. And this truly is, right? It's super contextual, but not heavy on the language. Like how many other opportunities do you have to engage in the mathematics, the math practices, contextual real world without heavy on language? Like it's a math teacher's dream. But like I said, I'm willing to admit that I have a lot to learn. I was like, well, what's out there? Like, what are these visualizations? What are they doing? I didn't even know this is allowed. Are they breaking some kind of math creativity rule? And so I started looking out, and I thought, and they, the one on the bottom right is also U cubed. And, for students who are using time, what a great way to manipulate the clock and really the clock, because the clock, even though we talk about what do we do at 2 o'clock, right, in second grade, they still don't really plug into the fact that the clock is a round timeline, number line. They don't really plug into the fact that those times have meanings, or we do certain things in those times. It doesn't always tell a story to them. So I really liked this too. And I'm getting to this one. So I don't know if you've ever seen this before. This is 2 female mathematicians who decided to write postcards back and forth to one another and tell a story about their lives through data visualizations. And so this is a postcard. I'll read the title to you. It says, A Week of Laughters. So we won't do the whole protocol, but I would love for you to notice and wonder for a second.
Did you say a week of laughters?
A week of laughter, which I love. I probably would have been a week of tears because I'm morbid, but I love the laughter. And I want to know why she laughs so much. And I want to live that life. It's fun.
I'm trying to see if, I wonder if each vertical line is like a new week.
No, a new day, I think, right? Because it's a week of laughter. But it's not 1, 2,
Oh.
3, 4, 5, 6.
I wonder if it's going.
Oh, there are 7. There are 7. I think.
4, 5, 6,
1,
7.
2.
Yes, 6, 7.
Yeah. Okay. So then that would make so I wonder if the size of the oval is the amount of time left, or if they represent people. So like the second oval, like the red with the green oval in the middle, like shows up. If it's the same one, it's showing up kind of throughout.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm
wondering if this is like within one day. Is that how many times they laughed? Because then there's obviously lots of other coding there, right? Like you're wondering about the red and the green, but then there's like purple with blue in the middle. And is that the number of times that they laughed in that day? And then which day is Saturday? I'm hoping
I'm wondering that too. Like, is Monday a very little laugh day?
Yeah. And Saturday hopefully is the longest one. So that would be.
Yeah, I mean, if it is, that's a lot of laughter. But like, so what did you do on that day? So, okay.
Okay, now these are adults and they're data scientists, obviously very intelligent. So there's a lot of attributes. So maybe pick one thing that you were wondering about and try to find it on the key and kind of uncode what you were wondering about.
Okay, so size of laugh. Yes.
That makes sense. I can't read it. Sorry.
No, you're okay. And just to confirm,
I think that my view is much smaller than yours, but also my eyes.
Confirm, Molly. A line, it says, is the beginning, ends a day and begins another.
Okay, good. So what does red mean?
Red
friend or studio mate.
Yeah. Maybe. And a red line is a stranger's behavior. So she has 4 categories. No, she has 3 categories and 2 rules. It goes in chronological order. The lines end a day. The circles are what she was laughing about, and the dots inside who she is with. So there's 5.
Oh.
4. What I was laughing about, size of the laugh, and who you were laughing with. So 3 attributes.
And the little lines are laughing at people, and the regular circle is laughing with people.
Oh, yikes.
I mean, more laughing with versus
so that's good.
Yeah, you could just look at each element by itself. For me, I'll be honest, my level of data literacy is as a 5th grade teacher, not unlike most of my mathematical knowledge, right? Other than what I learned, I haven't used what I know about algebra in many years. What I learned and used as a 4th grade math teacher, we had 2 attributes, right? Maybe 3. And to see that there are so many different attributes and to break out of the mold of a bar graph or a line graph in order to show those attributes was so enticing to me, so interesting. And so I started looking down that pathway, and I just want to show you some images to inspire anyone who might see this. And I think a visual speaks a million words. The data project has inspired people. There are some examples here in her book of what schools have done. And I found there's a contest going on right now. It's Data Viz for Kids or Data Viz Kids. And they're running a data visualization contest for students. They're using manipulatives and art. But how cool would it be to get together with your art teacher and come up with some attributes about something? Maybe it's something you're studying in science. Maybe it is about, attributes about yourself. So the flowers on the right-hand side are in a different language, but you could that could be yourself or your family. And each one of those flower elements represent something about you, right? Make a flower based on all these attributes. What is your flower? What do we notice about the flowers in our class? What's similar? What's different? What's unique about some flowers that no one else has? The one on the left is each color means a different type of food group for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I just thought they were so beautiful.
No, I love that. It makes me think a little bit of it was back when Twitter, before that imploded, but someone was doing a line of either crocheting or knitting based on the temperature. And so
yes, I've seen her.
Which, is so cool. Like, it's a visual representation of temperature throughout the year. It's so cool.
That's an awesome example. And I've seen her do different years. I think she lives in the West somewhere, like Arizona or something. And she had different chunks that, and now we can, what a great example. Our weather's so wacky, right? Right now, it's so different.
Love that.
And I liked this one too. The one on the right was also from DataViz. And then I tried one where we used pattern blocks, and you could have anyone, like the students can come up with their own attributes, but here you've got a lot of ways to represent your family or your school or your classroom. The whole school could get involved, but or your feelings about mathematics. I put emoji stickers on these large Unifix cubes, and they sorted the data by emotion, and then they sorted it by color, and they sorted it by team. And there's just, when you have something physical, you can change the way you look at the data based on the arrangement, which is really hard to do when it's already static on the page. So I think there's an interesting idea to using concrete materials in that way. You could reorganize it just
looking at data from a whole different angle, right? Yeah. I mean, I can see why this has been so appealing for you.
Yeah. It's exciting. I feel like, like everything else in teaching, I've just discovered it and just starting to try it. And I'm like, just trying to share it with other teachers, because, when we share it with other amazing educators, it'll grow, encouraging people to see the different resources that are out there, so that they can start using it in their classroom as well. And all students can benefit from these kinds of mathematical conversations.
No, I love it. I love that it is multidisciplinary. Just thinking about even just the connection between math and science, which is often obvious, but this and math also with art has some connections that some people probably don't know about, but this opens it up to a lot more that you can create the connections with. That's really intriguing. I love it.
I was noticing that you offer consulting or coaching or services around family nights.
Yep.
And that was a huge part of my coaching job, and making them engaging and getting people to come. And how amazing would it be to have like a wall or a table or a room where families were creating data visualizations about themselves. And then you had a data wall in your school where kids could leave notes on it and people could analyze it and think about it. or even if you participated in this as teachers, that's what I always say to people at the end of my workshop, like, get curious. No. Go to the New York Times and go look one up, or follow Jenna and see some of her slow reveal. Many of them are very intriguing as an adult, I think. So I think we always start by learning ourselves and getting more comfortable with how we feel about it ourselves, and then jumping in with students. And don't be afraid, like, let it be messy. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to be a data expert to explore it with students, right? You could have a question and say, I don't know, let's go find out. Let's figure it out. Let's get somebody smart to help us out. Now, you don't have to have it figured out. You don't have to have a book or a curriculum to get going on it with your students. Be messy.
Yeah, well, and obviously this, I would feel like let's not even say years ago, yesterday, before I started talking to you about this, that, data had kind of a surface level of what I knew about it, like what you were talking about, your 5th grade level, but even like what I would see in the newspaper and what we watched during COVID, it all looked very similar and familiar. Like what you're talking about here is like creative and interpretive and much more fluid. So that for me is new. And I love that idea of having a wall in school where kids are constantly answering questions about themselves and the data is showing a story about the school. That for me sounds really fun.
Well, next time you have a data meeting about your Dibbles data or your whatever it is, here, bring a marker, give your teachers a chart paper, let them represent their data in a beautiful way. Maybe that changes the vibe.
Yeah. No, for sure. I was just having that conversation today.
It's a beautiful day with data. Let's change the narrative.
Yeah. Let's look at things from a positive direction.
Yeah.
Well, Chrissy, tell our listeners how they can learn more about you. Where can they go to find you?
I am on LinkedIn, Christine Hopkinson. I'm not sure if I have it as Chrissy. And so I'd love to connect. I am on other social media, but it's more about me as a mom and a grandma and a human, not as much math. So my math stuff is mostly on LinkedIn. I currently work for Didex, and so you can always reach me at chopkinson@Didex. And I am always looking for amazing authors like the two of you who have great products that they're trying out in the classroom. So don't be afraid to reach out. And I'm also, I love people to write blogs. So lots of ways to get involved if you would like to.
Great.
Awesome. We love it. And
thanks for letting me chat about this. So fun to do it in an informal way, not in like the structure of a presentation. I feel like more passionate about it. Thank you for letting me do that.
So fun.
No,
so
we always like these conversations are so interesting and exciting. We just love to hear what people are doing and trying in classrooms. And it's a way for people to hear something and then try something new, like in a low stakes, like these are all the, amazing people that we have on, like, these are ways to just a little thing that you can try and just see how it goes. And then, let us know. We're always really excited to hear how it goes.
I love it. And I love that it's not a podcast. No, I'm a fan of podcasts. That's fine. But I like to see the educator's face and I like to see their relationship with you. And I really like it in this format. So kudos to you.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Again, so fun.
I know.
I think the thing for me is like that we get to watch people talk about the things that they're passionate about, and it so translates in their voice and the stories that they tell. Like, we're the luckiest.
Yes, we are.
All right. So our next show is on March 19th, which seems, well, it will be here before we know it. But and we will be interviewing Jennifer Lemp. So that's so exciting.
Yes. So yeah, if you don't have her books, you can read ahead if you'd like. She has
I have this one.
Quite a few math workshop books. I don't have the newest one right here near me, but she does a lot of work with math workshops. So we're going to be really excited to speak with her about that. And
again, go to Didex. And until we see you again, we hope that you make math creative, curious, and inclusive.
Good night.
Bye-bye.